Welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I'm Shane Kennedy.
This is Nico Galliano, the rejected gentleman.
All right, well let's get started. So first thing, how has your week been, Nico?
Really good week, man. You guys all know that I'm in sales. It's been going well. We've expanded. We're having one of our best months year to date, over and over and over. So it's 5 consecutive months. So really well, Shane. How's business going, man?
It's good, just busy.
Yeah, I hear you there.
You know, the thing is, you and I both put the busy in business.
Yeah,
right?
I like that. Wow,
Yeah.
That was nice, man.
So actually, before we get into just talking about the headlines and stuff, why don't we talk about sales?
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about sales.
Something that I'm convinced of is when people think of what it takes to be a good salesman, and being a good salesman, being a good salesperson, it's very, very important for your success and for the success of your employer. It's very important that you're able to sell yourself and that you're able to sell whatever it is you have to sell, right?
100%.
So the thing is, I think there's a misconception that a lot of people have. They think that what it takes to be a good salesman is just to be charismatic and to basically be a good bullshitter. Oh,
yeah, man. Well, I mean, these people are like, they watch Wolf of Wall Street and they're like, that's it. I'm getting into sales. And that's what they think it is. They almost think it's like
con game.
Like a con man or a Mitchstick man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're always just trying to pull a fast one over on someone. And that's couldn't be further from the truth about sales.
So what I would argue a good salesman is, it is someone that's a problem solver and someone that can identify very easily what other people's problems are and propose to them a solution. And now, most of the time, that salesman is going to be proposing a solution that they can sell to that person, whether it's a service that salesperson offers or it's a product that salesperson offers, right? But the thing is, the key to that salesman's success is going to be being able to identify and anticipate problems and identifying those solutions, and then figuring out how to offer those solutions, right? So the thing is, you have a lot of people. They're very charismatic. They're very they're smooth talkers, velvet voice, and everything. But that's not all it takes to be. Now, those things are very helpful if you're in sales. It's very helpful to be a smooth talker. It's very helpful to be charismatic. But those are not the essentials of what it takes to be a good salesperson.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the number one thing when it comes to sales, too, if you just take the salesman out of it completely, the one thing is what I guess he is in it. What I'm trying to say is when you have a product or service that you're offering, right, you have to be 100% sold on it. Because if you're not, it always is going to be a hint of that kind of conning because you don't even believe in your own product or service. So I'm not saying that there's not a guy out there that can't get into selling, screws, right? It's real hard to get, excited about screws if that's what you're selling to big industrial, stuff. You're selling like screws and bolts and nuts. You truly, if you want to be number one in that game, and I'm not saying this guy can't go out there and make millions of dollars doing that, but if you want to be number one in that game, you have to believe without a shadow of the doubt that your product, right, is superior to every other nut and bolt out there. You have to be sold on your own product to be number one in there. So, for instance, I'm in an industry where there's a lot of legalities and stuff like that. I truly believe we have the best product. Now, that gives me the mentality to go in there with confidence. I go in with confidence because I know we're the best. I don't have to bullshit it. I don't have to try to pull a fast one. Yeah, well, those guys say that, but our product actually does this, and it doesn't do that shit. You know what I mean? Or if a customer brings up an objection, and they're like, well, this one does, this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, but ours does this and this, and it really doesn't, or not as good as that other one. That makes it kind of difficult. You know what I mean? These are objections that come up. So if you are sold on your own product, if you would buy your own product, you can be very passionate because everything sells, right? Us right now convincing our definition of sales to people is us selling that.
It's us selling it, yeah.
If I tell you, hey, I saw a movie this weekend, right? It was great, man. You got to check it out. I'm trying to sell you on watching that movie or at least having the notion that it's a good movie, right? Everything sells. Not every single person on the planet is a salesman. We just don't look at it like that.
Well, and I think the most important thing is to be the person to be the person that's got the answers.
Correct.
That's the important thing. You know, and you especially know if you're doing a good job at sales, if you have clients or customers, you know, whatever you call them, if they're coming to you or if they're referring other people to you to answer questions for them. You know, because that's the thing. It's not being a bullshitter. It's not being overly it's not just being someone with charisma or someone that's persuasive necessarily. What it is, it's being the person with the answers. And you brought up like the like nuts and bolts, selling industrial equipment, whatever. If you're a salesperson selling those things, then you should know more about that stuff than anyone else on the planet.
Could not agree more.
Yep, because the thing is, whenever somebody comes to you with an objection that's holding them up from buying whatever it is you're selling, their objections 9 times out of 10 they're not objections, they're questions that the person has. You know, it's going to be the person asking questions. Well, you've got these sizes, but what about these sizes? You know, they're going to be asking you, well, again, if we're continuing with the nuts and bolts thing. All right, so you're giving me a lot of measurements that are in the English customary system. What are the measurements in the metric system? You know, but so the thing is, if you're able to fire off answers and correct answers at that, then you're going to have a customer for life, and you're building a relationship with that person. You know.
Absolutely. Dude, this shit gets me so excited. Okay, so when it comes to sales, because I specifically do sales training, right? So my job is to get my guys to actually sell the product, right? I love that when you deep dive into sales, and a lot of people, like I said, a lot of kids especially, I do run a lot of interviews where they see freaking Wolf of Wall Street, they'll go see, you know, Boiler Room, they'll see these movies like this, and they like the quick kind of the flashiness of sales, which is nothing wrong with that. It's fit your personality. But I love that at the end of the day, sales is so much science and psychology. Every single thing we do, and you learn more and more and more and more. I have over 10 years of experience in the industry, in 2 different industries, right? To the point where now I'm doing sales training, and I've learned so much more doing sales training than I even knew when I started, because I'm actually getting to like teach it to someone and they'll ask questions. I'm like, wow, I never actually thought about that, and you position it differently. But the whole point of this is that everything you do in sales is for a reason. Like we could go on to, you know, the difference in between like a cold call and a warm call and a hot call, and how someone would act if you were doing over the phone sales versus in-person sales. It's all situational. But you learn these different things. But the number one thing, like you said, if I could give any advice, it's be the most knowledgeable on that product, right? And like you said, it's not a bullshit thing. Be confident, be knowledgeable. Not sleazy when I say confidence. Have confidence in your product, have confidence in yourself.
And you're confident in your knowledge of the product, right?
Of your product. If you have that foundation, you will beat 90% of the guys out there.
Yep.
Because 90% of those guys are those guys that are trying to be like sleazy, quick. You know what I mean? The most persistent people on the planet. Like, and I'm not knocking any industries, but you get those ones like the cell phone guys in the mall at the little booths, right? They're trying to hit you up so quick. Or the guy selling Dish TV at Sam's Club. You know, I'm just pulling these out of my ass. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the industry you're in. I'm just saying those tactics don't work anymore. People can smell that shit a mile away. No one likes it. That's why people have natural defense mechanisms against sales. You know, oh, I'm not interested. What do you mean you're not interested? I haven't even told you what I can do for you yet. What are you not interested in? You know, now you can't attack. Now, that could be a very aggressive form of sales on the phone. You know what I'm saying when you're saying that? But I'm saying that's how they're so natural to, oh, I'm not interested. Thank you. They just want to get off the phone. It's not anything personal. They don't even know you.
Right.
They hear sales and they know they're going to be pitched. And because it's become such a sleazy kind of industry, it's a very respectable, a salesperson should be a professional. You know what I mean? 100%. It's not the persona we get. They've gotten sleazed down.
Well, and rather than a salesperson coming off as someone that wants something from their customer, they should be oozing with product knowledge and information and advice, wisdom. They should be overflowing with information rather than overflowing with a bunch of questions like hey, I can see that you I can see that you drive a car. Maybe you need an upgraded fuel filter, or maybe you need a new set of tires. Instead of that, you should always start off with offering advice to people. Free and clear. Because the thing is, first and foremost, the most valuable thing when you're in sales is for someone to genuinely trust you. And people are a lot smarter than any of us would like to think. And people can tell when you're not being genuine, and people can tell when you only want something out of them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that kind of concludes us talking about sale. I mean, it's something I could talk about for a long time.
Yeah, dude. Like I said, it's what I do for a living.
It's something I've been involved in for a long time, and I think in many ways, people that are in sales, teachers, and even preachers, I think have a lot in common, because what they're all three of them are trying to persuade groups of people of particular bits of knowledge and information. A preacher's trying to persuade people about the Bible and about values and truths and ethics. A teacher is trying to persuade students of varying ages. They're trying to persuade them that learning math or learning language arts or something, that it's worthwhile, that
these
it's
skills
worth
are
them
going to be relevant and pay dividends in the future.
Yeah, that it's worth your time to study these things and everything. And then when you're talking about a salesman that's selling a service or a product, they're putting themselves in service to the public to try to offer that product or service to them, to benefit them. Obviously, selling it is going to benefit the salesman and the company that the salesman works for. But the best salesmen that I know, including yourself, are people that genuinely go about it trying to help people, trying to answer questions, especially questions that might be very complicated, like the nuts and bolts example that we used before. There are a lot of intricacies to things like that, to machinery, to all sorts. There are a lot of intricacies to it.
And that's the beautiful thing about, and I tell all my sales guys this, that's the beautiful thing about sales, is when you have two parties that are negotiating in a sale, right? The party that is getting the service or product always wins. And what I mean by that is that it's not an equal trade. So when people think that it's an equal trade, like you give me money and I give you this product or service, it can never be an equal trade, or people won't want to do it. Especially if it's a lesser value or perceived as lesser value, people won't want to do it. And what I mean by this person always wins is the service or product that they're receiving always has to have value or perceived value that outweighs the cash they're giving you. So you have to offer massive value in the transaction. I don't care if that's in the form of, I'm going to give you $2 and you're going to give me a burger. That's massive value for me, because I'm craving that burger. I can taste it, the pickles, you know what I mean, on the fucking burger. Or if it's all the way to a car, I can see myself, the confidence I'm going to get, that I'm going to ride the tires off the thing. People are going to think I'm so cool. It's going to save me on gas. It's practical. No matter what it is, I have to perceive that I am getting massive value as the buyer. You know what I mean? So the salesman is actually always getting the lesser in the exchange. And that's how you should go into every transaction. Massive value, whether it's a service or product. That the person you're selling to is always going to come out better than you. And if you look at it from that angle, you're not sleazy. You're not doing anything. You're offering them more than what you're receiving. It's not an equal trade.
Right.
I'm just getting cash. And cash is shit. Money's garbage. We accumulate it so we can go in turn get higher value in other areas. The cash itself doesn't mean anything. So the winner should always be this person over here, and they need to feel that. Because if they don't, you're never going to become, like I said, number one in your industry.
And it's important that they objectively understand that.
Yes.
You know, that they objectively understand this product or service, it's solving problems A, B, and C. And it just so happens I have problems A and B. So by me getting this product or service, it's going to solve those problems. You know, now if I'm somebody, I don't have any of those problems A, B, or C, then I should be able to quickly identify, because at the same time, you don't want for that prospective customer to think that you're wasting their time. You should be able to just lay it out for them. And if that person says, you know what, I don't have problems A, B, or C, then they can just move on. You know, they're not wasting their time hearing your pitch, and you're not wasting your time either. You know, but then they do know down the road, if they ever do have problems A, B, and C, or A, B, or C, then they can come back to you at any time and find out what kind of deal you can offer them.
And just to build off of what you just said, you could not be more accurate. So one of my biggest thing to do is, like I said, in sales, a lot of time, because in the industry I'm in, we do deal with a lot of, I would say, colder leads. So cold calling or cold leads. People, these leads could be aged all the way from 1 week to I think it's 5 years is the max. 3 years. I'm sorry, 3 years is the max. So I mean that is a cold lead. I was looking for this service or product 3 years ago. So anytime you have that, like I said, there's a natural objection to salesmen. We do it subconsciously. They don't know me. They don't even know my name. It's nothing personal to Nico. You know what I mean? So when they do that objection, what I like to disarm, like you were saying, is, hey, Shane, I totally understand. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not even sure I can help you yet. That's one of my biggest safeguards that bring them off. Because now they're like, wait a minute, you just called me and told me this is what you were so-and-so, and this was your goal, was to offer me this, and now you're saying you might not even be able to help me? Because it brings them off of that, their guards up here. They just want to get off the phone because they know they're, and I'm like, Shane, I totally understand. To be completely honest with you, and I go slow, and I don't even mind if it's stuttery, you know what I mean? Because it's genuine. Like, to be completely honest with you, Shane, I'm not even sure I can help you yet. I need to make sure that this is even a problem you have. You know what I mean? It is A and B true for your situation, and you're going to be like, well, yeah. Well, let's take a look at this real quick and make sure it's even advantageous for you. You know what I mean? Or different variants of that. It doesn't have to be like that. And now their guard just came down. They're like, well, fuck. He just said if it's not great, he's not even going to try to pitch me this. So, yeah, I'll hear what he says. Instead of, hey, Shane, I got great rates in your area, man, and come on over. And you're like, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Shane, are you sure, man? Because these are the greatest rates ever. No, dude, he just told you he's not interested. Even if he knows that, I am actually been paying more for that service or product lately, maybe I should hear this guy. He doesn't want to be pitched. It's subconscious. It's a defense mechanism because he knows that he has to give up money in this transaction, and we naturally want to keep our resources. You know what I mean? And he's like, no. Because he's feeling like whatever you're doing, you're getting more value than him. Can't happen, man. So, yeah, no, just to solidify that point.
Well, let's move on.
Yeah, dude, because I'll talk.
Yeah.
This will be a
me too.
9-hour podcast. Yeah. And I'll start going into different scenarios and pitches.
Well, and maybe sometime we'll spend some time kind of elaborating a little bit more in the future. So we had talked about looking at the Pentagon, right? So there's this whole war in the Ukraine, and really, I guess it can be best described as
these are the greatest salesmen of all time, by the way. These guys.
Oh, wait, are you talking about Zelensky?
Oh yeah,
yes,
100%. I was talking about the Ukrainians. Yeah,
well,
I didn't mean the Pentagon.
Well, let me tell you this. So Zelensky, he shows up in like tracksuits, in front of Congress. I mean, this is like Steve Jobs level quality of like a sales pitch. He just shows up and he starts speaking in his language. It sounds Russian. Look, I don't. Listen, I don't speak any Slavic languages, but to me they all sound Russian. But he he gets up there and he speaks in his broken accent, whatever language it is, and then he gets the whole room. They all just stand up, they start cheering, and then they just hand him money
every time.
He's brilliant. But so specifically, we'll talk about the Pentagon.
Okay, yeah.
And we all know it. What they authorized, like $116 billion in military aid to go to the Ukraine because Zelensky is the greatest pitchman of our
generation.
lifetimes. Yes,
he makes Trump look like an amateur.
yeah, dude. He makes Trump and Steve Jobs look like hobos.
You
know, so $116 billion was authorized. I think we're starting to reach the upper limit. We haven't exhausted the full $116 billion in authorized aid yet, but we're getting close. Or we're working our way up. So the Pentagon, I think they're starting to panic a little bit, knowing that since the Republicans have a very slight operational majority, and the Republican Party, because they still have egg on their face from the Iraq War, they're a little bit more skeptical of foreign military interventions. So I think the Pentagon knows it's going to be kind of difficult to squeeze more money for Ukraine military aid out of Congress in the future than it was in the past. Mm-hmm. So the Pentagon, they just came out. I think it was 3 or 4, maybe 5 days ago. And they said, hey, we made an accounting error. Now let's stop there. Everybody knows that the Pentagon, they're continuously making accounting errors.
They haven't passed an audit in how many years, you said?
Decades.
And
the most recent audit, I think this was in November of last year, the Pentagon said that they could only account for 40% of assets that were under their control. And just for the record, the Pentagon has about $3.5 trillion in assets under their control, and they can only account for 40% of that. Now, so I guess the whole reason I framed it in that is that when the Pentagon came out and said that they made an accounting error, nobody was shocked.
No, that's all you have is accounting error.
Yeah,
because your books are bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all fugazi. None of it's real. It's just numbers on paper.
So the thing is, the Pentagon is one giant accounting error.
That's all it is.
They're one giant accounting mistake. So anyway, they came out and said that it dawned on them suddenly that they were counting the weapons that they've been sending to the Ukraine, that they had been counting them wrong, that they had been arriving at the value of those weapons that they've been sending incorrectly. So
the valuation of the weapons, not the weapons themselves.
Right. Yeah. But the way that they monetarily value them, so that when they're subtracting these weapons off of that $116 billion allowance that Congress gave them, so that they can appropriately subtract the value off it with each weapon that they send. So the way that they had been valuing the weapons was at replacement cost. So the way that they had been evaluating the value of the weapons was how much is it going to cost them to go get
a new one.
Yeah, to go and get a new one to replace the one that they just sent to the Ukraine. Well,
because that makes sense.
Right. So the Pentagon just said, you know what? We made a mistake. That's not the correct way for us to value these weapons.
Oh, what is the correct way?
The correct way for them to value these weapons is to go back and try to figure out how much they would have originally paid for those weapons years ago. Now, this might have been 5 years ago. This might have been 10 years ago. This could have been 30 years ago.
Oh. Well, I mean, we haven't had inflation in that whole time period, so that's fine, actually.
No, exactly. Yeah, the cost of living hasn't really gone up, so we're good.
It just makes sense, yeah.
So that freed up an extra $3 billion worth of weapons that they can send to the Ukraine because when they're figuring the value of those weapons, they're not figuring it anymore, Nico, based on the cost to replace these weapons. No, that would be crazy. And clearly that's not what Congress intended.
Just fucking prices from 9 years ago.
Right. Not 9, 10, maybe 30 years ago.
I picked that thing.
Some of these weapons maybe 40 or 50 years ago or something, and we all know that the cost of living hasn't gone up since then to now.
So are they going off original purchase price, or are they going off are they adding devaluation in there?
Yeah, they're also depreciating them too.
So they're all depreciated as well.
So the thing is,
nice.
When it comes to accounting, the Pentagon sucks. With the exception of being able to identify this one mistake that they've made that they're correcting. At this time, they become masters of accounting.
Dude, these guys are geniuses. They can pull some whoppers out of their ass. They needed to make money appear from somewhere. They had no more to give, or at least, they knew money was coming to an end. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, so if they spend as much effort in actually accounting the money they're like magicians. They literally just created money out of thin air. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what they're in the business of, man.
Yeah, I guess you're right. In business is good.
Yeah.
Business is great. Is good, brother.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if you were at any job in the world, I don't care. I don't care if you're a fruit stand and you had 100 oranges. If you just lost 60% of the oranges in transit, right, to set up your stand, the guy that owns that stand would fire your ass so fast your head would spin. If in any industry, whatever job you guys have, if you lost 60% of the shit in your office or what you were in charge of, you'd be gone. You'd be on the streets that day. Mm-hmm. If not criminally charged, depending on what industries or stuff it is, or held liable. There's no accountability for these people. They can publicly come out and go, yeah, hey, we have about I'm just going to round up, $4 trillion worth of assets. We don't know where 60% of that is. And also, all the money that you allocate to us, every time that we do this, we usually tend to lose anywhere between on our audits. We just don't fucking know where the money's at. We like to lose anywhere from, all the way from 5%, right, to 70%. Like, where does the money go?
It's the honor system, right?
It's just
the honor system.
But we're good guys.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere, and we'll find it. But they never find it. They just make new shit up.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to keep on doing, because the fact is, this war in Ukraine is tragic. It's disgusting. It shouldn't be happening at all.
Correct.
But let us not forget that we fomented the United States and our European
children.
Yeah, children. I was gonna say another word, but I do not regard the Europeans as being our partners or allies.
No, they're not partners.
Yeah.
They're not allies. They are our children.
Yeah, they are our children, our abused children, and
relics of past glory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So we made the executive decision that we would that we would work to assist in fomenting a coup in the Ukraine in 2013. And the U.S. government was involved in this. Victoria Nuland. In fact, you can go and you can look up on YouTube her very famous leaked recording of her phone call. It's called F the EU, and you can go and look that up. And that's actually a leaked phone conversation where she was plotting in the coup what president they were going to replace the elected president with
in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Who did she talk to?
She was talking to I forget who it was. It was some other State Department guy.
Okay.
But the Russians were pissed, because the Russians were like, look, this isn't fair. Because the leader that they had at that time, I think his name was...
Is this in the Ukraine?
Yeah, Ukraine.
And this is in the 2000s?
Yeah, this is 2013.
2013. Was this guy like a Russian sympathizer or a very friendly Russian?
He was neutral and skewed a little bit Russian. But that kind of reflected the demographics of the Ukraine at the time. But the point is, he was democratically elected. We didn't like him. Because what he was looking at, what was the fact that at that time, the biggest trading partner of Ukraine was Russia. Mm-hmm. And if he would have if he would have signed up for the European, to become a member of the European Union, generally speaking, in order for a country to become a member of the European Union, they have to destroy their economy. Mm-hmm. They have to utterly destroy it.
Just absolutely destroy it.
And you see, the problem is that Ukraine had a lot of exports. They exported a lot of chocolate. They exported a lot of items to Russia. And what would have happened is, in the process of them getting set up to become a member of the European Union, they would have had to destroy their economy. And he was like, this isn't really that good of a deal. Let's try to figure out. He was really trying to pit the EU against Russia and Russia against the EU to try to get the sweetheart deal he could for Ukraine.
Good, a good leader.
Right. Well, we didn't think so. So us and the our State Department endowment for, I think it's called Endowment for Democracy, and all these other NGOs and stuff that are all tied in with our State Department and Soros money and everything. We just decided we don't like this guy. We're going to overthrow him. So we replaced him with I forget what the guy's name was, but Victoria Nuland plotted who the guy was to replace him with in the coup, and we replaced him. And so that set a really, really bad precedent in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. It set a horrible precedent in the Ukraine. And then we start talking about how we're going to stick to our plan that was part of the Bush doctrine. George W. Bush said that that the U.S. intended on making Ukraine and the country of Georgia members of NATO. Mm-hmm. At that time, the French and the Germans were opposed to it. They were absolutely opposed to it because they said this is going to destabilize Ukraine and Georgia. Because what we're doing is we're putting the Russians...
Didn't the Russians roll into Georgia with their dicks out and then they rolled out?
That's the whole reason that they rolled in was to prevent Georgia from becoming a member of NATO.
And that was back in 2000.
They invaded a region of Georgia called South Ossetia, and the reason that they did was to stop Georgia from becoming a member of NATO because with NATO membership comes Patriot missile silos and everything that can house nuclear missiles, and the Russians have been very adamant in saying they don't want nuclear missiles any closer to their country, to Moscow. To their capital, Moscow, or just to the rest of their country. And, we don't really give, the United States really doesn't give a shit. So, and we've kind of gotten off the path a little bit as far as the Pentagon goes and everything. But
we went right back into it, didn't we?
But I guess the whole important thing is that this situation in the Ukraine, it's been one big mess. And, the thing is, the media, the corporate press, and when I say corporate press, I'm talking about MSNBC, the New York Times, Fox News, CNN, the Washington Post, all
your
these
usual
people.
Suspects.
Yeah. Whenever they refer to the war in Ukraine, and they still do, they always confess at the very beginning. They always say the unprovoked war in Ukraine, the unprovoked war in Ukraine, and they say it over and over and over and over again. Well, this war was not unprovoked. The Russians have been saying over and over and over again, we would prefer for Ukraine to be neutral. For Ukraine to be neutral. For Ukraine to be like a little Switzerland, Switzerland on our border.
A lot of people would rebuke that, and they would say that it's a sovereign country. They can join if they want to. Russia shouldn't have a sway in a sovereign country, right?
Well, what I would say is we violated the sovereignty of the Ukraine when we fomented a coup in 2013.
No, to be fair, America has a long, rich history of what I like to call, and we're masters of this, we love spreading this. It's called dictatorial democracy. So what we do is we bring democracy to countries, and we let them vote as long as they vote for the guy that we want to win. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then shit's going to get nasty there.
And if they don't like it, we just shoot them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the way it is.
Yeah, dude, ask any country where we brought democracy. We love democracy as long as you vote for the guy that we want there.
Well, and if we back up to the origins of this entire of this whole saga in the Ukraine, the December prior to the Russians invading, Putin was trying to wheel and deal with Biden, because we talk about NATO as being a partnership and everything. NATO is controlled by our country, by the United States. Mm-hmm. So really, what should have happened is we should have established NATO. We should have established Ukraine as being a neutral country, and figured out how to make it beneficial for Ukraine to be like the crossroads between the European Union and Russia. That would have worked. And the problem is, when you look at the demographics of Ukraine, the eastern half of the country, it's demographically Russian. Those people identify as being Russian. And then the western part of the country, it's, they identify as being Europeans. Traditionally, they were Europeans. That's where the Polish-Lithuanian Empire made up western Ukraine. Then eastern Ukraine, and even going down the coast to Odessa, all those cities were all founded by Russian czars. Those cities were founded by czars. Catherine the Great founded the city of Odessa. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is, this whole thing, it's much more complicated than just unprovoked war, unprovoked war, unprovoked war. Well, the United States, we certainly helped to provoke this war. I'm not saying it's entirely our fault, but I'm saying that we were a major contributing factor in it. That we helped to shed the spark that led to this fire.
And it's actually really not off topic going back into this Russia thing. I know we've talked about this probably two or three times, because it is a big topic, and it's not really off topic, because we're explaining exactly why we have an accounting system that's laughable. Is because they are funneling money over there. This is nothing new. We've done this many times in many different countries, because I believe we by far are the biggest arms dealer in the world, correct?
I saw an article the other day. I saw the number 57%. The United States is, I think we arm 57% of it's 57% of countries that we identify as not being democratic. We sell 50% of the weapons to those countries that those countries buy.
That aren't even democratic.
Right. That by our definition are not democratic.
Because we haven't gotten around to doing dictatorial democracy in those countries yet.
By shooting them and convincing them to shoot each other until they become
You're
democracies.
probably on our list. We'll probably get you eventually. We'll get there. Don't worry.
And that's the remarkable thing is we have a Pentagon and intelligence community and everything. They can't even pass an audit. But they're gallivanting around the world and toppling governments. And committing weapons around the world and putting our country in serious danger. They are actively putting our country in a position where we may have to fight a nuclear war. And the thing is, they may not get that wish from hell granted in Ukraine, because it looks like, at least for now, things seem to be calming down a little bit there. And I think with the fall of Bakhmut, the Russians have got a little bit of an upper hand there. We'll see if this Ukrainian counteroffensive manifests itself.
When did that happen?
It happened a few days ago.
The fall of Bakhmut?
Bakhmut.
Bakhmut. I was like, dude, I've never. Okay, Bakhmut.
Yeah.
What is that significant in your opinion?
So the reason it's significant is that that if you look at the front line there between the Ukrainians and the Russians, Bakhmut kind of jets out as a city. It's a big center of rail and roads and everything. It jets out into the Russian controlled area. So now that the Russians control it, the Ukrainians no longer have a beachhead into the Russian territory. So now it's going to free up the Russians to possibly push a beachhead into the Ukrainian controlled area.
Okay.
And this is another thing: the Russians have been using Bakhmut to destroy a lot of Ukrainian weaponry and soldiers. As the current head of the Russian forces in Ukraine said, he called it a meat grinder, and they call this guy Putin's butcher. So the thing is, it's like you and I have both said from the very beginning. The sad thing about this war in Ukraine is we're willing to fight it until
the last Ukrainian.
That's right.
So wait, are they in full swing again now that winter's over?
Well, the Ukrainians are saying now that they can't do their offensive until things warm up a little bit more, which seems like a load of bull. What I think is happening is I think the Ukrainians are I think they're running out of Ukrainian soldiers.
And they got to be tired, dude. This has been going on over a year.
Well, and this is the thing: the Russians can keep sending soldiers in, and they're going to.
As Americans, and I think we have a real bad habit of this, because all our, war on our own soil is all just history books to us. Mm-hmm. Every war we've ever fought has always been far away in our modern time, right? Even the World War II, the Great War, right? Like that was Europe. It was in Europe, right? And if you ever talk to these guys, like our grandfathers or guys that fought in Vietnam or Korea or anywhere, there's a storm. Like wars, we glorify it. These guys come home, it's not glory. Like these guys are like, it's brutal. It's horrible. These guys come home with, it's not a good thing. Now, we can sit on American soil and go watch Netflix, eat our dinner, and not worry about it. When it's Russia and Ukraine and they're fighting a war, this shit's happening in your neighborhood. You're evacuating your home in some areas. You're leaving everything you love behind, just carrying what you can carry on your back to get the hell out of there because shit's blowing up around you. Now, when that becomes a reality, right, and obviously less on Russia's front, this is happening in Ukraine, that becomes very tiring very fast. Like, we stopped giving shit about the war in the Middle East because it became unimportant to us. It even stopped trending on the news when we were still fully in it because it just became old news. It was just something we were doing. You know what I mean? It was background noise. When that's happening in your neighborhoods and you're watching cities burn to the ground, over a year, dude, that's got to be taxing on the Ukrainian people. Morale's got to be low. They're watching their fathers, brothers, sons die. People they know die. Like you said, the male population's decreasing. And you can tell all the stories you want about the ghosts of Kiev and super soldiers and fucking squirrels that run around with sniper rifles, killing all these Russians. At the end of the day, you're watching the Russians push in more, and your city crumble, your country crumble and decay. So yeah, man, that's got to get tiring. Do you think, I guess my point to all of this is, do you think that we are closer to peace talks now?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons that I am a bit so I think the danger of this breaking out into a nuclear war in Ukraine, I think there's a really good argument to be made that we are at less risk of that happening now than a year ago.
Then what was it, 14 months ago?
Yeah. At the same time, there's a good argument to be made that we're closer to that because the Ukrainians are losing, and they're losing badly.
But we're finally admitting it now.
Right. But this is the thing that concerns me is the more the Ukrainians lose and the worse the situation turns out for them, the more likely it is that these psycho animals that are in control of our State Department, in the intelligence agencies and in the Pentagon, the more likely it is, in my mind, that they'll try to get American troops directly involved in this conflict.
Oh yeah, because we're not ready to make peace,
right? And you see that's the problem. Now, one beautiful thing that has happened over the last couple of days, six African countries have said that, South Africa being one of them. 6 African countries have said that they're going to try to work to foster a peace deal. The Chinese and the Saudis are going to work to try to foster a peace deal. India wants to work to foster a peace deal. What we're really seeing is we're seeing the whole world break into two camps. It's really the United States and then the Central American countries and South American countries that we have a stranglehold over.
Yeah, that's just because we got that leash around their neck.
Right, plus Europe, and then the rest of the world, and the rest of the world against us. And the thing I'm worried about is these animals at the Pentagon that they may end up just giving up on Ukraine at some point, which they're going to have to. And peace may end up coming to Ukraine, whether those people in the Pentagon like it or not. And what's left is going to just be a rump state. Mm-hmm. The thing I'm really worried about is what's unfolding in the Pacific. And the thing that's very concerning is, the corporate press, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all of them. You'll notice when they can spin a story to make it look like the Ukrainians are winning, then you can't escape those headlines. Mm-hmm. But whenever they can't spin it to make it look like Ukrainians are winning, when the Russians are doing well and the Ukrainians are doing poorly, they just don't report on it.
Nope. Old news.
It's the same thing with Taiwan and China. When they have something that they can report to try to spin it to make it look like Taiwan is rising up against China and that they're going to stand up, they want to report it everywhere because they love war, But now we're not hearing we're not hearing nearly as much about Ukraine as we had been, and we're not hearing anything about Taiwan, which makes me concerned that the State Department is reevaluating their position and that they may be looking to pivot from Ukraine, just give up, cut our losses. At the end of the day, we only lost a bunch of money. The Ukrainians are the ones that spilled all their blood, and we're going to be pivoting to Asia because what we can figure is if we can get China to attack Taiwan, then that'll be a bloodbath. And I think what our goal is, just stepping back. I think what our State Department's goal is, which was really forged by it was called Something for a New American Century. They were the same eggheads that came up with the idea for the war in Iraq and stuff. Which they dominate both major political parties now, the Democrats and Republicans. But right now, they dominate the Democrat Party much more than they Democrat the Republican Party, at least for now. What they say is that they identified three major threats to America's continued dominance over the world. China, which is obvious, Russia, and the third one, which was kind of surprised me, but it made a lot of sense to me afterward, was Germany. So the reason that they said China was a major threat is obviously China's economy is roaring. And China has invested very heavily in a military, in building a military. And this is the thing: China's got the biggest navy in the world. China doesn't really have aircraft carriers or anything. Mm-hmm. With their navy, it's a very, very potent coast guard because the Chinese know that it's going to be America that's going to be projecting into the South China Sea. Mm. It's not them that have to try to project their power to North America. So what that New American Century Group think tank said was, what we need to do is get the Chinese to destroy themselves through some kind of a conflict, probably with Taiwan. And so it makes sense for them. If they can get China to attack Taiwan and for them to mutually blow each other up, then China can wound itself significantly. Mm-hmm. And then Russia, they also viewed Russia as being a major threat because Russia has a lot of nuclear weapons. So I think the reason that they love this war in Ukraine so much is they view this war as bleeding Russia. The problem is it's backfired because with all the sanctions we've tried to put on the Russians and everything, other countries are just not buying into it except for our little children in Europe.
Yeah, our children are buying into it.
And then other countries that we have a stranglehold over. And then Germany. Their major concern for Germany is, Germany historically in Europe has been the continental hegemon, meaning that Germany is traditionally has been the most powerful country on the European continent. So what their concern was that Germany having access to cheap Russian energy, and Germany also having such heavy industry, being like, one of the major chemical powers of the world, being able to manufacture so much stuff and having such a complex, vertically integrated manufacturing economy, that the Germans could at least assert dominance over the European economy in a very overwhelming way and displace the United States. Well, with us blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, that problem is solved right there because when Germany is going to end up paying 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times the amount for energy than they were paying from Russia for natural gas from Russia before, that's going to long term that cripples the German economy. Germany will never be the dominant power on the European continent again, ever. So
it's a strong statement.
Yeah. So what I think we're facing in the world today are these animals that are in control of our intelligence agencies and the Pentagon. Is they're looking to maintain America's position of dominance in the world by trying to take out as indirectly as possible what they've identified as being our three major threats: China, Russia, and Germany. And what I see them doing is they've already done it with Russia. They've made their move to make the Russians go into Ukraine. It's a bloody war. A lot of Russians are dying. A lot of Ukrainians are dying. Many cases Ukrainians and Russians are both family members.
And we don't lose anything. And
right.
Like to support your argument,
we're losing money.
We're losing money, but we don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
And we lose nothing in Europe.
Yeah, and this is another thing.
Because we never cared about Ukraine in the first place.
These animals that are in charge in the Pentagon and in the U.S. intelligence agencies, those people are not beholden to you and I. Those people are beholden to the arms industry. Mm-hmm. And the arms industry, they're laughing their way to the bank in America.
Of course they are.
As a result of all this. And guess what? They're going to be laughing their way to the bank once there's a conflict that breaks out in Taiwan, which inevitably there will. Because, right now, we're talking about expanding NATO into the Pacific. Now, I want for you to keep in mind, the acronym NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Mm-hmm. Now, what the hell place does the North American Treaty Organization have in the Pacific Ocean?
Dude.
It doesn't have a place. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to encircle China. What I think is we're trying to encircle China to try to provoke them into invading Taiwan because what our elites think is if we can provoke China into invading Taiwan and spur some big bloody conflict between two groups of people on the Asian continent, then that'll produce a weaker China, which just by default makes America stronger. If China weakens itself, if Russia weakens itself, and if Germany is weakened, then just by default, us having to really do very little,
taking out all the players.
Yeah. So it makes us it makes us globally dominant for a longer period of time,
unless we do run these people into the arms of each other. So if there is a new regional power between Russia, China, I would say even India, and then they gather up a couple small countries, probably Middle Eastern countries, they'll roll them in. If they can get that going and they all recognize each other, dude, that's a pretty strong force right there.
Well, Nico, they already have it going. It's called BRICS.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm referring to.
Yep.
So if that relationship kindles into something serious, if you will,
it's serious.
Yeah.
They're talking about developing a new global currency. And they're going to cut the United States out of it.
It's devastating.
Yeah,
so you're basically going to have two sides of the world that both can't see eye to eye on this.
And that's the problem. These animals in the Pentagon and intelligence agencies, they have succeeded in doing something that their predecessors were not stupid enough to do, which is to push the Russians and Chinese together.
Yep.
To identify us as being their common enemy and uniting them together on one front.
And the funny thing is they don't even like each other.
Right. And this is another thing. They have pushed the Saudis and Iranians together.
They don't like each other.
Right. They didn't like each other up until now.
That's what I'm saying.
And the thing that's uniting all of these people together
is their dislike for us.
Exactly.
Because we're warmongering tyrants.
Right. And that's the problem. We had such an opportunity after the fall of the Soviet Union to foster peace around the world and to really lay out a new order in the world where people would freely trade with one another on the premise of fairness and charity.
Because it was literally just us.
Right.
We were it. We were last man standing.
Yep.
We had an opportunity.
And that was called the international relations people call it the unipolar moment, like a unicorn, one horn.
Undisputed
right.
America, big dick swinging.
Yep.
It was us.
Yeah. We were the single pole of control in the world for
and we dropped the ball.
Yep. And yeah, we destroyed it. And the thing is, there's never really been a moment in human history where any country has had that opportunity before. Mm-hmm. And we utterly wasted it. So looking to the future, the thing that I'm hoping is that there ends up being a major populist movement in the United States, hopefully circled around the 2024 presidential election. And the people I've got my eye on are Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Because I think both of them, as flawed of characters as either one of them may be, I may not agree with them entirely on a lot of the social issues and on a lot of the things they want to do domestically. For me, and I think for a lot of Americans, I think a lot of Americans have a deep sense that our standing in the world is not good right now. We are viewed around the world as being the aggressor. We're viewed around the world as being a bully.
We're bullies. I was just about to use that word. We're bullies.
And the thing is, nobody, no one around the world is going to want to trade with us. And other countries around the world, they're going to want to see the American order overturned. And we have a lot of damage control to do. And this is not the type of thing where we need to go around the world and start making fake apologies to other countries. We need to start acting responsible. Mm-hmm. It used to be that other countries would view America as being a neutral broker for peace. Mm-hmm. When you had two countries that were at war with each other, they would look to the United States to help broker peace between the two countries. Mm-hmm. We were a third party. Well, the United States, we lost that position. We lost it a while ago. But I think us losing that position is crystallized in this whole debacle in the Ukraine. Oh, yeah. Because if there's one thing the United States isn't in this Ukraine war, it's neutral.
No.
Yeah, and we're certainly not peace brokers. We are warmongers in this. Now you can argue the Russians are the ones that rolled in, so you can call them they're war pigs. But this is the thing: we're just as much war pigs because we're making buku bucks off of this war. Mm-hmm. We're preparing the way for BlackRock to roll into Ukraine so that they can go and buy the country up, and slice it, dice it, and make a whole buttload of money off of it.
Hey man, return on investment, right?
Yep,
dude. I think that was a good topic. I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And just remember something, Nico, mm-hmm. that wars are expensive, right? Mm-hmm. We spent a lot of money in Ukraine, and we're going to end up spending a lot of money in Taiwan. Fighting China to the last Taiwanese.
Maybe.
Well, it's the most likely scenario. And just remember something, just so that you can sleep well at night. Mm-hmm. Just know that the IRS is hiring 87,000 new agents, and those agents are going to come and shake you down.
But I thought we just got rid of all that.
No. And those agents are going to come and shake you down. So specifically so that the war machine in America can continue to have fuel and grease to grease the gears.
The 87,000 agent thing's done. I thought that wasn't going to happen.
No, what's happening right now, there's the whole debt limit negotiation that's happening. That's one of the things that's on the table.
Oh, you think it's going to go through?
Who knows? Listen, man, you know as well as I do that to put your faith in the Republicans is just as foolish a thing as to put faith in the Democrats.
Dude, and my favorite thing about it is you're going to, real quick, let's end this on a high note. You're going to have these 87,000 agents, and they're going to come shake you down because, God forbid, you pay your $200, fantasy football fees through Venmo. They're going to be like, look here, you son of a bitch. That's 3 Taiwanese and 2 Chinese people that could have fallen to bullets that you're trying to win on fantasy football through Venmo. So you need to claim that because we need those bullets.
And those bullets represent profits for Lockheed Martin, for Raytheon, for all these companies. Yeah.
We hear bam, bam, bam. They hear cha-ching, cha-ching,
that's right.
cha-ching. That's all it is.
When we hear bullets fired on a battlefield, the thing that we think about is the it is the affront it is to the dignity of human life. That it's disgusting because what's happening is humans are dying, humans are being injured. But what they're thinking is it sounds like a cash register to them. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Well, like
you just made a sale on eBay.
Exactly. It's that little notification on your phone. Yep. And you're like, oh yeah, I made some money. That's what they hear. And
that's one of the reasons. And not everybody in the Pentagon and in the intel agencies are animals. I'm just referring to most of the people that are in charge.
Yeah, no, we're generalizing. We are generalizing. We're saying decision makers, the big names.
And in fact, what I would say is this: is that we need people of character to go into to work in the intelligence agencies and to work in the Pentagon. Because if we don't have people of character working in those organizations, then who's left? It's war pigs.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, here. Last thing I want to say is, George Carlin once said,
great comedian,
that in America we have the stupid party and we have the evil party, and every so often they do something that's both stupid and evil, and that's called bipartisanship.
Oh yeah.
I think that is every year I live, the more true that becomes.
Dude, it's two sides to the same coin.
Yep.
And that's my favorite thing when, real quick, I don't want to go on tangent again, but I've had some debates recently, and we were debating about, Joe Biden and his performance. And of course, I'm not a big fan of it. And they're like, every single argument, I was debating with 3 different people at the same time. We're all sitting around the table. In their argument, I would say something that I didn't agree with Biden. And they'd be like, yeah, but Trump did this. And I let that go like 4 or 5 times by responding to it, which I shouldn't have. And the 5th time I finally said, and they're like, yeah, but Trump did this. I'm like, yeah, but we're not talking about Trump. We're talking about Joe Biden. Just like if we were talking about Donald Trump's performance, I'm sure you would all have issues. My retort back can't be on your discrepancy with what Trump did. My retort back to you can't be, yeah, but Biden did this. That's fucking insane.
Right. We're talking about the here and now.
We're talking about what this president did. But then when you start looking at it and you stop playing sides and favoritisms, and I'm a Republican and a conservative, well, I'm a liberal or a and a Democrat, or anywhere on that spectrum, you start realizing, shit, it circles around. They're just the same clowns. It's all the same shit.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got evil and you got stupid.
Yep.
When I know which side stupid is, by the way. So that only leaves, I'm just going to say, that leaves conservatives being evil and liberals being just stupid. Because, no, man.
Well,
I think if you go extreme either way, they're, like you said, they're both evil and stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, either way too far, evil and stupid, actually. Because I was just about to say, I know a lot of stupid conservatives, and I know some pure evil shit on the other side, too. But anyways, that's when you realize, dude, we got to stop the madness. We got to start doing what's best for people. And the biggest minority is the individual. We've said that before.
Well, and I guess, so the final thing that I'll say is this.
This is the third final thing that you're going to say.
So,
and then I'm going to retort.
All right, so.
And then we'll do the fourth final.
Yeah, so on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. He did not say, blessed are the war makers. He said, blessed are the peacemakers, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Right? So if he said that about the peacemakers, then what does that mean about the war makers? It means that for the war makers, the kingdom of heaven is not theirs.
Actually, I think that
so with those war makers, war pigs, And the animals in the Pentagon and intelligence agencies, they need to be thinking about what they're doing. They need to be thinking about their lives. And they need to be thinking about the peoples whose lives they're indirectly extinguishing around the world. And I want for them to ask themselves, is it worth it?
Dude, as long as it's in the name of egalitarianism and we can hang our hat on that peg,
Yep.
the answer is, let me spoil this for all the people at home in case you're pondering this. It's yes, man. Of course.
Every time, right?
Every time. 100% of the time, the answer is yes, baby.
Every time. Yep.
Every time. All right, guys.
All right,
Shane,
well, I think that's a good note to end on.
beautiful podcast,
Yep.
guys. Love you guys. Tune in, share it, post it, get us out there.
Next week.
Next week. Love you guys.